Hey, Sonny, wanna buy my crap?
And welcome back to LinkedIn to Lead Generation with Hannah Tighe. I'm guessing that was a tongue-in-cheek title, Hannah. So what are we talking about in this episode as we go through our series of good touch versus bad touch on LinkedIn?
Right. So obviously when you're reaching out to people, they have no idea who you are, right? So you want to make sure that you don't come off as that creepy, slimy, spammy salesperson, right? They want to know that they can actually trust you with their dollars and their business. So you want to make sure that you're presenting yourself the right way.
Good stuff. Now, as we always do, let's do a little rundown of the key takeaways that we're going to cover, and then we'll go through each of them. So what are the keys to success here?
Sure. So recommendations, personalization is the second one, and consistency.
Excellent. All right, so let's dive in. Let's talk about recommendations. How does this play into the good touch, bad touch, kind of world that we're talking about here on LinkedIn?
Sure, absolutely. So again, we talked about sometimes when you're reaching out to people, they don't know you, right? So when they go and they click on your profile, do you have someone who has worked with you, used your services, that can, provide that social proof to them that you are someone that, can help them with their problems, and that you are someone that they should invest their time and their money into working with? So
just for the fun of it, let's talk about a bad touch version first, and then we'll talk about a good touch. So what is a bad looking recommendation, that doesn't really give you a whole lot of social proof?
Right. So if you have one like from your mother, that's probably not such a good thing. Like if everyone shares your last name, not such a good thing.
Bad sign, right?
Yes, exactly. Or if, it's great to get a couple from coworkers and things, but, if that's all you have and you've never worked with anybody, that's kind of a tell. It's fine to mix that up into the mix, that you're a lovely human being, but you also want to really try and find some people that you've actually done business with.
Well, and that's the point, Hannah, right? I think you hit the nail on the head, helping people remember that the purpose of recommendations is social proof. Right. And if the person is your best buddy who's saying a nice thing about you, it's not a lot of social proof. Social proof really comes from someone who is at arm's length from you, being willing to vouch for you and say, hey, this is a good person. You should really trust this person's advice.
Right. And, you can talk all day long about how fabulous and wonderful you are, but if you can't find 3 people to actually say that on LinkedIn, that's a problem, and you may need to look at that.
Right. And so and that's how it comes across is kind of like, I always used to joke that, if you were walking down a street that had a lot of restaurants on it, and it's lunchtime, and you're looking through the windows, and this one's got 10 people in it, the next one's got nobody in it, the next one's got 8 people in it, how comfortable do you feel walking into the one with nobody in it? Now, it might be a fabulous restaurant.
Right.
That's the thing. But psychologically, we don't like to be the first one through the door. We're not really, most people are not big risk takers. That's the purpose of this recommendation, is that if someone has vouched for you, if you can show that you've worked with somebody already, they're going to be more likely to say, oh, okay, this is probably a safe person to trust.
Exactly. So make sure that you make that a priority, and that's a tough one for people because they don't want to put people out and stuff, but most people, if you actually ask them to do recommendations, they're willing to help you out as long as, you do it where you kind of give them like what you want them to talk about, so respect their time. So.
Yep. Absolutely, and that is the good touch version, of course, is the fact that it is somebody at arm's length, it's somebody who's really kind of seems impartial and is willing to give you that stamp of approval. So So recommendations are important. Let's move on. Let's move on to our second key point, which is about personalization. So what are we talking about here? What's the good and the bad and the ugly of this?
Right. So we talked a little bit about this before, but personalization, in everything that you do. If there's one thing that you hear from Hannah, I hope that you hear that you really want to be in the mindset in every communication from the connection request on to how can I really help? Is this helping my client, my network, anyone that I'm coming in contact with? Is this going to be helpful to them, or is it benefiting me? Because if it's just benefiting you, you need to not publish it, or you need to not send it. Okay, it's really important that you think about that before you hit send. Think, how did this help this person? And if you can't answer that question, don't send it.
Right. So again, you've said over and over again that people need to remember that these are real relationships. And Hannah, if you and I are having a conversation and all you do is keep telling me how wonderful you are and what you're doing, and you never turn the tables and ask me how I'm doing, how much do I really want to have lunch with you again, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what you want to think about.
So that encapsulates both the good, the bad, and the ugly there. Exactly. I mean, the good touch and the bad touch. So yeah, deliver value. We've talked about that before, and it's so critical. And that's what I think you're really getting at with personalization, is that you're moving from the generic to really getting to know this person and delivering what's valuable to this person, and you're going to have more likely to have a deeper, richer relationship, right?
Right, and you're also going to differentiate yourself, because so many people on LinkedIn don't do this. Right. So this gives you such a competitive edge. I mean, really. I mean, people like people who pay attention to them, who want to actually, build a relationship that helps them. I mean, that's who we are. We like people like that, right? So Absolutely. It's the same sort of thing.
Well, I think that's a great segue into your third point, which is, I think, a hard thing for a lot of people. So let's talk about consistency. And so obviously I'm going to guess the good touch is being consistent and bad touch is being inconsistent. What does that look like in the LinkedIn environment?
So when you're on LinkedIn and you're trying to use it for prospecting and building relationships, you need to set time aside every week to do it. If you can do it a couple times, great. And it can be 10 minutes. Go 10 minutes, go onto your home feed, like, comment, share. Maybe you're going to do that on a Tuesday. And then on a Thursday of that week, you're going to, start sending some messages to people. And, whatever routine that you can create, so that you're consistently moving that people along that pipeline, you're reaching out, and you're visible, okay, that you're an active participant. That's what you want to do. That is the good touch. The bad touch is when you reach out to a bunch of people, connection requests, whatever, and you disappear off the face of the earth for 6 months, and then you check your inbox and they say, oh yeah, great to connect, love to talk to you about some of the things. I see that you do this, that, or the other thing. We need somebody, and that was 6 months ago. You're missing out on opportunities. So you want to consistently be reaching out to people, moving them along, making sure you're responding and interacting.
Right, and not just being a flash in the pan. I mean, I know that I have absolutely been guilty of this, in stretches. You get busy, you spend some time, you're doing the right things on LinkedIn or in networking in general, and then you get slammed with, client work, and you're really busy, and you kind of let that all slide. But the experience for your network is that you just vanished. I mean, you just disappeared off the face of the earth. So the odds of holding top of mind or being the go-to reference just kind of went out the window.
Exactly.
And if that goes on for, listen, it doesn't take long for us to forget each other, does it? I mean, it's like, a couple of weeks go by and you're just yesterday's news, right? So
right, exactly. But if you're that person that's consistently in there, consistently adding value, you're like, wow, if you're in your groups and someone's constantly adding value, to discussions, you're like, wow, this person really knows their stuff, that you might contact them. Even if you didn't have a reason initially, you're going to keep that person in your periphery for the time when you do.
It's almost like you have to set a rhythm, right? I mean, and for one person it might be every day, for another person it might be once a week, for some people, it might even just be once every other week. But if you're in that rhythm, then people kind of get to know and they come to expect you're showing up at certain times in certain places, right?
Right, exactly.
It's like if your favorite TV show moves to a different day of the week, it kind of throws you off, right? I mean, there's a rhythm to certain things,
Yeah.
So, yeah, be consistent. So this is great, Hannah. So we've been talking all along here on several episodes here about good touch and bad touch on LinkedIn. It's been great stuff. So make sure that you are checking out Hannah's YouTube channel for all of these episodes. But more importantly, make sure you're connecting with Hannah directly. In this episode, we've been talking about the fact that getting recommendations is important, personalization is important, and being consistent, showing up, is half the game. Whoever said that, was that Yogi Berra? I forget. So Hannah, great stuff. The whole series has been great. I look forward to our next entire series. You're constantly delivering great value to me on behalf of the audience, so I love it. So I appreciate it. Until next time, Hannah, this has been great.
Thank you.